Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas Sneed, and I'm an associate professor and director of the Law Library at the Washburn University School of Law. One of the classes that I teach at Washburn is a class on leadership for lawyers. So where would this type of class fit in our current situation? Well, what I've found is that there's a huge importance to have an understanding of leadership skills in turbulent times. So today, what I'm going to focus on are two topics. One, crisis management, and the second, good communication. With that said, I want to give a big hat tip to Professor Deborah Rohde at Stanford University and her work, Lawyers as Leaders. This is an excellent resource. I use it in my class. Several of the topics I'm going to talk about today she touches on and come from her work. It's a great, fairly quick read on the topic of leadership in the legal profession. So let's go ahead and start and talk about crisis management. What are some of the big issues in crisis management that you can learn about in the legal profession and also from our current situation with COVID-19? First off, communication is huge. We're going to talk more about communication in just a second, but one of the big things in this area when there's a crisis, you need to let everyone know that things are going to be okay. That's the first step. Everyone's going to be worried. What can you do as a leader to try to change their minds, get them in a better frame of mind? Also, as a leader in a crisis situation, transparency is huge. You may not be able to share everything with everyone, but the more you can share, it will build up morale, it will build up trust that the people that are following, they know that you're telling them everything that you can, they're as plugged in as they can be, and it helps with the overall situation. You also need to come up and have a vision. How are we going to get through this? How do we come out on the other side? This may be difficult first off when a situation arises, but having that vision, it helps out with morale, it helps out with all the other issues that come along. Know where you're going, where are you going to come out on the other side? And then finally, in a crisis management situation, it's important to bring in different viewpoints. You don't want just yes people. One of the examples Professor Rohde uses in her book is that of President Obama and his team of rivals that he worked with. These were people possibly from the other side of the aisle that had different viewpoints than him. But it's always good to see every viewpoint that's out there, particularly in a crisis. You can stay away from the yes people, you can make the decisions that need to be made. So the first point in crisis management is communication. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So there are several steps in communication that are going to make you out to be a better leader, particularly in turbulent times. First off, you have to think about what your objectives are. Don't just say something to be saying something. You need to know where you're going to be going with the communications that you have. You also need to know your audience. While you want to be transparent in times of crisis, you also need to know that not everyone needs to know everything. You don't need to tell the entire story to everyone. Know your audience, sometimes less is more. But it's also important to establish credibility with your audience. If they know you're an expert, go for it. But if you're not an expert, let the experts talk. It'll help everyone feel more safe and secure when you run into these difficult situations. You also need to be very mindful of what you're talking about. You need to know what to not discuss. It's sometimes better to not say anything. Also, start your communications strong, end them strong as well. People may not always be listening to what's in the middle. Have a good start and a good finish. And it often helps people if you have a story to tell, if you can intertwine a story. Maybe it lightens the mood, maybe it helps out with the entire situation. Stories, good starts and finishes, and knowing what not to discuss. Always with communication, another part's what you look like. If you show up in a crisis situation and you look like you're not prepared, if you look frazzled, it's going to affect everyone else. This is difficult to do, but you definitely need to be ready for the situation, not only with what you're going to say, but also with the way you appear in the presentation. And then finally, never show up for anything unprepared. We have a picture of Abraham Lincoln here. The Gettysburg Address was not created in 5 minutes. This was something that took a while. He didn't have just one draft. He prepared what he was getting ready to say to people. Don't just show up and start talking. In a dangerous situation, that's going to make things worse. So with that said, let me again, my name's Thomas Sneed. Leadership's a fascinating topic. It's certainly fascinating at this time. And always, when you're looking at our leaders, think about how they're handling the crisis and how they're communicating with you. It tells a lot about their leadership skills.